Great. Okay, so I started. So this is our fourth town hall meeting that we've done. So just like usual, updates are a recap of what happened the previous week, and plans are sort of a outline of what will happen in the current week. So just in terms of updates, the handbook, we've started compiling the table of content for the handbook. We've finalized the table of content, and we're going to start working on a few items each to essentially detail out whatever is on the table of contents. So I think we started with what Algovera is and what we do and the mission, values, and so on as the first step in the Algovera Handbook. So that's an ongoing process, and over the next few weeks we'll have completed the handbook and released it out to the wider community for feedback. So in the hope also is that like we can make it such that the community can add to it and modify it using GitHub pull requests. So that's the handbook. That's the overview of what happened last week. Then we have the token pod and the create pod last week as well. The token pod, we used it to sort of have decisive decisions on some of the big picture tokenomics of Algovera. So we made decisions on should we distinguish between core team and projects within the core team and so on. And we ended up with sort of saying that we need to figure out the Algovera framework as our main component for the tokenomics pod for this week. So that's going to be the main item of discussion for this week's pod, and that's like the big chunk of what the tokenomics pod is meant to do, is to figure out that the framework of Algovera. So that was what happened last week. In the create pod, we discussed how we can get people that are taking part in the hacking sessions. Once they've completed the hacking session, how can they propose and create their own project? So we've been sort of outlining what might be a template for doing that, and we've had a first sort of draft at what that might look like. We're sort of thinking there's going to be a project proposal initially, which can be on Discourse, and we'll have a template for each project proposal. There's going to be a specific time period for feedback and updates. Then there's also going to be a voting process to know which projects to choose. That could be done in some tools like Boardroom or Snapshot. There's going to be a specific time period for that as well. And then the way we plan to release the fund is in 50% tranches. So the first 50% is allocated before the project begins, and then the second 50% is allocated when the deliverables are met. And if there's a dispute between either parties, it's going to be decided by a working group that sort of operates independently. And if there's sort of a appeal for that decision, we can always go to a community vote or something. So that's the general framework for the create track. Again, it needs to be ironed out in a little bit more detail, but that's what we've sort of came up with in the last week, and we'll continue to iron out the details for this week. Hacking sessions, you want to give a little brief overview of what happened last time, Richard?
Yeah, cool. So we worked on training a generative art algorithm, all done locally, so not using compute to data or the ocean infrastructure. And yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Like for a lot of people, it was probably their first time seeing a machine learning algorithm being trained, and so yeah, just seeing it train and learn how to generate something, I think was quite interesting. The the plan for this week was to, or I suppose we'll talk about that later, right? So the plan for next week. So maybe I'll just, yeah, it went well. And we had like a turnout of 8 people or something like that. And a few first timers as well, I think. So not our highest hacking session, but if we can kind of consistently keep around that number, I think that's good growth compared to, you know, what we were at the start, maybe like 5 or 6 people.
Yeah, no, it was great. I thought it was pretty cool to see the sort of machine learning process in action. Yeah, so that was quite cool. Then number 5 is the community directory and reputation system. So again, this is something that we've started working on last week. We essentially want to compile a list of the members in the Discord channel and give a little bit more information about them. So it could be a small bio, sort of social handles, and if their personal website, if they want to also put that in. So again, this is going to be all an option for members if they want to put in the info, or if they want to remain sort of anonymous. But we just want to give that opportunity for people, a space for people to give a little bit more information about them, and a place for members that that's just joined can sort of browse through and see who all is in the community and so on. Again, a reputation is going to be something similar, but it's more automatically scrape data from things like SourceCred and any projects you're involved with. It's again signaling for other members to see what you've been involved with, how much value you've contributed, and so on. So that's a process that we're trying to do it in such a way that it's scalable and also makes sense in terms of who gets access to edit and so on. So we're still figuring that out, and myself and Keaton are sort of working on that, and hopefully over the next week or so we can get that up and running. So that's the community directory and reputation system. Apart from that, that's some of the things that happened last week. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else, Richard.
No, that all sounds good. I think the community directory is going to open up a lot of doors. I think I'm really excited for when that's in place. Just to start like promoting conversation between people and stuff like that. I think it's going to be a great resource. Yeah. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool. Just even like, you know, if somebody comes in to the community as a new member and they find somebody with some similar interest, there should be a way of reaching out and connecting with them. And, you know, it might not be obvious when you reach into the Discord who has the similar interest as you. You might not just scroll through all the introductions or so on. You might want to just have a really quick glance at all of them. So yeah, I think it's going to be a cool space for people to interact with each other and also like show some of the work they've done. So that's all the updates. So plan for this week. Number 1 is we want to set up the Discord plugin for SourceCred instance. So currently we just have the one GitHub repo that we've connected to SourceCred. But we want to also, Discord is also one of the plugins for SourceCred, so we want to set that up. So that's one thing. And then number 2 is that there's so we're doing a session with Trent on Wednesday, so need to do a little bit of prep for that in terms of what questions we want to ask, and also maybe market and promote it a little bit as well on social media and so on, just for people who are interested in that sort of stuff. Is there anything else that we need to do for Wednesday's session, Richard, other than that?
I have a feeling my microphone might be gone here. Let me know. But I think just put out some more tweets. And so like the tweet that I did put out, I think it was our most liked tweet ever. It was 3 likes or something like that. And we got like 10 new followers or something like that as well. So I didn't really thank Kernel in it. And so I'm thinking the next tweet, I'm going to tag Kernel and Andy specifically because they played a big part in setting it up. And so, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then, I don't know, I might like put some tweets in the Discord and ask people to share them as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just it would be great to get like some big numbers into it.
Yeah.
You know, I think we should hit like 20, no problem. But it would be great to even get like 40 or something like that. I think that would be really cool. And it could be a few people's first time in the community and stuff. And so anyone that we've been trying to get in, if we can invite them, I think it could be an interesting conversation. Trent has taught a lot about these things, like AI DAOs. He's written a lot of blogs, you know, autonomous art DAOs and all this sort of stuff. And so I think he's going to have some really interesting insights. And also, I don't think I've ever seen him talk specifically about AI. Like, he has a lot of talks up all over the place, but usually he's talking about data marketplaces. And so hopefully we can get some different discussion out from him that isn't currently available online. I think that would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool. Yeah, so we can prep for that conversation, and maybe even like put in the Discord for like, or even in Twitter for like questions that we should ask Trent. Just sort of crowdsource questions that people might be interested in asking.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that might be something as well. Number 3 is that we want to begin the prep for fundraising as well. So this could be simple as like starting the investor pitch deck, starting to form the problem statement and description of what we do and so on in a way that's targeted towards investors. We've also excuse me. We've also started to curate a list of potential investors that are good for our project and have a reputation in Web3 and are also interested in AI. So we've started curating a list of investors and VCs that are specializing in Web3 and AI. So again, like the process for fundraising is a long process. So we just want to start that process so that maybe Q1 of next year we can close our first seed round. That's the plan. So we'll start work on that. Number 4 is the hacking sessions for this week. Can you give a little outline of what you're planning to do for this week, Richard?
Yeah, so like originally I was thinking that the event was going to be replace the hacking session, but we're not really going to be hacking. It's going to be more of a chat. So I think we're replacing the Junto now, is what we said, which puts me under a bit more pressure to get this week's hacking session ready, I suppose, because we're getting to the tougher part now where we want to train using the compute to data infrastructure, which I have only done with like, you know, the basic basic configuration, basic Docker files and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I just need to start hacking on that, create a custom Docker file, which means, you know, we can have different dependencies than just standard Python dependencies. And also, yes, I think the plan was before we start training a model, which is quite a compute intensive process, and we need GPUs for, we can actually do compute to data for a simpler algorithm. So for example, just an algorithm that counts the number of images in the data set or something like that. And that means that we can use the like out of the box Ocean compute provider, which times at 60 seconds. So we get the whole process going for, you know, a simple and quick algorithm. And then the next step after that will be replacing the Ocean compute provider with our own provider, compute provider, which Robin's going to help us out with. And then, yes, so I think, yeah, this is basically using compute to data and a simple algorithm that just, you know, counts the number of images in the data set, but doing it all using compute to data infrastructure. So that's the plan.
Okay, sounds good. There was also talk about us doing a DeFi hacking session. Is there any update on that?
I just reached out to Greg today, actually just before this meeting, to say, because Greg wanted to push it back 1 week, and then Christian was saying he wasn't available this week. I think he's on holidays. And so I asked Greg, should we push back until Christian is there? And he said, yeah, he thinks Christian's going to be a great contributor to it. So it'll be great to wait for him. And so I think we'll start hacking on that next week.
Okay.
Is the current plan. Yeah. Sounds
good. And then number 6 is legal structure. So again, this is an ongoing process that we started last week of getting the paperwork ready for incorporating in Singapore. So that's still under works, and it's going to be it's going to take maybe a few weeks to get that ready. But yeah, essentially we'll have to do some paperwork for that. Can you also give a little bit of information about the Token Engineering Academy's governance sessions?
Yeah, sure. So the Token Engineering Academy, they're basically like a university for token engineering. I've taken a lot of courses with them since I came into the space, and they're now doing one on governance and specifically on reward systems. And so the idea is that you bring together governance researchers who are kind of more theoretical, together with token engineers who are more technical and like used to running simulations and things like that, and try and figure out some, get them working on projects together and designing new reward systems and stuff like that. So it really aligns well with what we're interested in. And so I'm actually not an official, I think they call them research partners, the group of 40, just because it was a 15-hour per week time commitment. But I know Angela quite well, and she said we could sit in on them as guests. And so you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get all of the information without having to dedicate 15 hours a week to hacking on it. And so yeah, I'm just really looking forward to seeing what people work on and figuring out like which of the ideas we can incorporate into the design of governance for Algovera, and like even run some of our own simulations and stuff like that. So yeah, just like I think it's really where a huge amount of innovation is going to happen, because I don't think there's ever been a course like this before on governance, especially between token engineering and governance research. And so I think some really interesting stuff's going to come out from it, and we're going to stay on top of it. So stay tuned.
Great. That'll be really good to have draw insights from what you've learned there and sort of apply to Algovera as we evolve. Yeah. So apart from all those points, again, like there are multiple other things going in parallel as we do all these things. Like there's still a number of pods running in the week, and there are smaller tasks that we haven't mentioned in the plan. But this is just like sort of the main points of the plan. Yeah, so I think that should be a wrap up for the town hall for this week.
I can just add, for any other business, I don't know if you got a chance to look at the index coop slides that I linked.
I quickly looked at them. I quickly looked at them. It was really informative, and they talked about pods and nests and wise owls and so on. I want to get a little bit more deeper into that. But yeah, it'll be really interesting. And also just to mention as well, the social choice theory. I was just looking into it. It's like a really fascinating area of research. Again, I think there's a load of things that can be applied for governance from that. Yeah.
So interesting. Yeah. I think, and like another book that's really good is Rethinking Organizations. And I think that's why the index coop one resonated with me, because you have these, humans can't work with like 200 plus people. So what it suggests is that you should have these bottom up groups that are like, semi-autonomous and know each other really well. And that seems to be what Index Coop are going for. What I think is really interesting there is that they're actually like a product DAO. I think that's what they call themselves. And so that's kind of similar to how we see ourselves. And they've been operating, with a different structure and come up with a lot of problems, such as decision-making being really hard to do when you have to achieve consensus between everyone. And so this is like the new set of slides that they've put out is like a solution to a lot of the problems that they've encountered. And actually some of the things are quite similar to the way that we've started to set ourselves up in terms of things like pods and stuff. We always wondered what what was the next level up from pods, and what would we call it? And nests is what they call it. And then also like this idea of having the wise owls, or a group of something like max 7 people who kind of like steward the whole organization, but are also like answerable to everyone in the DAO and can be replaced at any time. And so I just really like the structure. And yeah, like it gave me a few ideas as well in terms of for the create track, especially. Rather than funding individuals, I think it would be really interesting to fund pods, because it encourages collaboration out of the box. And then those pods can choose how to spend that money, for example. And so, if we could set up a pod for medtech, or like a pod for like neuroscience, and, maybe each pod has 4, or maybe like, I think they have 7 in their pods, but like a limited number anyway. And then, you could have different types of stakeholders from different organizations and different DAOs. And yeah, just by funding these pods, we could start working on some really interesting projects and collaborating with other DAOs and like with lots of different stakeholders. So I think we'll probably chat more about that in the coming weeks.
Yeah, definitely worth exploring in how they do it, and see if there's value that we can add to it. So I think we can probably wrap up